Good morning, masters. How are you doing? I am here on the dawn of the United States in Miami, waiting for these new consultants to arrive, who are going to be consultants in REORIxINS in a few days. I have already met some of them yesterday in that wonderful synchrony in which I had forgotten to do one thing. So I had to go back, and when I came back, I understood why I had forgotten that. And I met Carlos and Javier, two wonderful Cubans who are coming to this meeting and that I am glad I met. And this wonderful group that is going to emerge from here made me feel that I had to say, because sometimes one assumes that everyone knows what REORIxINS is and how a symptom originates, because both things go together. As we know, there are biological currents in the world, currents with a biological basis which I call post-Hammerian currents. I maintain that there is a pre-Hammerian world and a post-Hammerian world. But in Humano Puente, that biological base, which is incredible and super important, simply does not encompass the same place as in the currents with biological basis. In the currents with biological basis, Hammer's proposal covers 100% or 90% of the knowledge. Some add the transgenerational part. And in Humano Puente, the proposal of Hammer and the biological basis, which I repeat, is wonderful and very important, covers a percentage here, and this is more or less, or much more is the path that is proposed, but covers a small part of that. However, it is a part of great importance, because according to Humano Puente, it provides logic to this experiment that we come to perform here on Earth. And Humano Puente proposes to Earth, for the first time, the union of those biological bases with the transgenerational part, but with the very origin of the universe, with a logic that there is through that, but all as an experience carried out by the I Am, by the Creator making an experience on Earth. Why did we come to that conclusion? By practice. Today's Humano Puente, December 2019, is not the same Humano Puente as in 2011. That we proposed this because there were already intuitions that took us there. There were warnings that told us that it was so, but we did not have the experience that we have today about that. Today, Humano Puente is that current that proposes to the world that if one follows the message of the symptom, if one goes through the history that there is, but assuming himself to be the creator of everything to be able to carry out that in the way it's meant to be carried out, one will notice that when you enter into your deep pain and go towards it in the symptom, but you go without judgment, without those thoughts, those attitudes that make you go looking for someone with a certain distorted way of seeing it, and you begin to make a path out of that and to work through the pains that took place in the past, you begin to notice that the people around you change, that your economy changes, that your affections change, that intrafamilial relationships change, relationships with others, that you begin to live in a different world, that you begin to see positive social changes, that you begin to live in a better world, that you start having things available, and you notice that the time that you carried, look at the Mayan calendar, the central figure is that time. It is the man carrying with the time. And you discover great ancient truths. You discover that you are burdened with the time until you begin to heal time. We are actually here healing time, which is an expression that already starts becoming distant from the possibilities of the mind, especially the Western mind, a mind that is not habituated to the profound. But time and shape are united, and one supports the other. So the shape that you have in your reality is actually holding a certain time. Time is relative, and therefore the form is relative. Space and time are a unit, and that unit works specifically for an observer who is a creator which is each one of us. Therefore, the conclusion to which we got in Humano Puente, the phrase, I would not say final because it has no end, but a very important phrase we arrived at, like Aconcagua Plaza de Mulas, that is to say, an intermediate step but for those who dare, is that we are, each one of us, a creator living in an individual time, living in an individual reality, living in an individual Big Bang. And the conclusion of that is because of what I already told you, And one realizes that when you start working on the time works in your favor and shape works in your favor, because you began to understand, at the end of the day, what you were distorted in with certain mandates that are from the universe, and that we have it clear in our biology. And again, thank you, Hammer, because this same thing that Hammer says is applicable to everything in other areas. And when one aligns all that, time gets in your favor, matter gets in your favor, shape gets in your favor. But then, you had to do all of that, only you. And what happens if I have a symptom? I work on it. And what happens if I have something else that mankind does not call symptom, and it is to be suffering because he has a symptom? I work on it. So those are the differences. Now there comes a time when we present to the earth REORIxINS. And REORIxINS means return to the origin by interpretation of the symptom. Basically, a symptom is a warning that we are moving away from a way that biology has to carry out its expansion and continuity. Biology has its mandates, it has its laws, and a short time ago, in a monopointe, in Bariloche, I presented something that is very important. It will seem the same, but it is not the same. There are two types of safety mechanisms that biology provides. One, those who tend to make life longer. That is to copy the data of those who lived long and try to repeat it. And on the other side, avoid anything that leads to premature death. It is not the same mechanism. We are kind of in the middle, protected by this mechanism that takes us to long life and protected by this mechanism that prevents short life. I even found in what type of symptoms it originates in each case, which are the ones that lead to long life and which are the ones that avoid short life. With REORIxINS you can go and look for all the related histories, because REORIxINS is a ceremony in which we deploy a family tree on the floor with a certain logic that you learn at the REORIxINS opening, with a particular view, and we go out there to look for the logic of the pain that was caused by one of these two issues, that the client is in a cycle, in a space-time energy that is making him live a lot, even if life is not very pleasant, or in a complex of energies, of time and space that are making him avoid death, but in energies that are not very pleasant. For example, as I mentioned the other day, a person who has an unconscious link with an ancestor who left and died and was never seen again by his clan. Maybe now has multiple sclerosis when he repeats events similar to those of that other person, and that is avoiding death. On the other hand, there are people who had someone with diabetes next to them all their lives and suffered a lot from that, and lived 90 years. That person here can be the client repeating the life of this person who took care of the diabetic. So what we do with REORIxINS is entering the family tree through that logic of love, not being satisfied until we find the person frowned upon by the clan, the bad one, the abuser, the batter, and so on, because that is the one that must be rescued incredibly, which not many dare to do. And when we do it and return the original state of love and peace to the family tree, the miracle of healing occurs. Well, as always, I invite you to see more information at humanapointe.com. Today I start here in Miami. I love you. Humanapointe.com has a page for videos where you can see everything. A big hug.